Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome to Comme d'Archi Podcast Season 6.
Saison 6, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci.
Thank you
D'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Dear listeners, hello and welcome to our summer series for season 6 of Comme d'Archi. This is Esther on behalf of Anne-Charlotte. Let's get together today for the 5th episode of the 2025 summer series, but the second one dealing with the ambitious project to consolidate, enhance, and restore the Domeyrat Castle in Haute-Loire. A building listed in 1930 and then classified as a historic monument by decree on December 30, 1983. After highlighting the restoration process and providing some context and a timeline for the castle in the previous episode, let's get to the heart of the matter. Phase 1 of the project, consisting of strictly conservation, safety, and maintenance measures, will be completed in 2025, while Phase 2, involving sustainable consolidation, will begin the same year. This phase includes priority work and a series of medium-term actions that are part of a commitment to restore the heritage site in question. It is scheduled to run throughout the project until 2035. Phase 3, 2028-2035, includes secondary work, enhancement and scenic development, and long-term actions based on a strong architectural vision. All of the following information is taken from the May 2023 project presentation by the Domeyrat Réinventé Association and the project architect Christian Laporte. Phase 1. The challenges of the preliminary work are as follows. Firstly, neutralizing the potential risk of masonry collapse by stabilizing the last remaining areas at risk of collapse is a priority. Preventing the risk of falling stones and allowing visitors to walk around freely and safely during the summer period is the only way to ensure that the site remains accessible in the long term. It is also essential to allow all types of people, associations, volunteer work sites under the Union ramparts, specialized companies, etc., to access the masonry during the sustainable consolidation and enhancement work. Finally, limiting the impact of natural factors contributing to the deterioration of the ruins, combating the permeability of the site to unwanted intrusions, and assessing the condition of the masonry of the outer enclosure in order to map the damage. Additional diagnostics are an integral part of this phase 1. The priorities of which are as follows. 1. Careful removal of vegetation from the outer walls. 2. Checking permanent shoring and additional reinforcement. 3. Spot cleaning or repointing of masonry elements in a precarious state. 4. Checking the horizontal lines and occasional stabilization of the glacis. 5. Selective reprofiling of vertical tiers. 6. Temporary repairs to existing wooden structures, particularly roofing. 7. Installation of simple anti-intrusion devices. And 8. Land management of the surrounding area and annual maintenance agreement. Phase 2. This corresponds to the Sustainable Consolidation and Restoration Project. After the removal of existing elements, such as heterogeneous micro-shelters, and the dismantling of questionable previous work, general masonry restoration work, and a so-called mimetic restoration will be carried out, including rainwater management, site drainage, gutters, interior floor repair, basement waterproofing, restoration of sound substrates, stump removal, moss removal, and cleaning of facings. Deep joint filling and crack repair, sealing in rooms. Internal grouting of masonry blocks corresponding to the glacis of the tower bases. Dismantling and reassembly of disorganized areas using submerged metal reinforcements. Regeneration and harmonization of lime mortars and selective repointing. After all this, it is necessary to anticipate the visual separation of the old and the new by considering materials for the contemporary parts that are suitable for ensuring the durability of the whole. Finally, this phase involves structural repairs to old openings. Among other things, non-restorative masonry must be considered, as it is impossible to rigorously restore the window frames. In fact, no cut stone remains in place. The gaps will simply be reduced to make them less unsightly and to allow a clear reading of the luting of the stones, avoiding any hazardous interpretation. For example, inferring that it was the result of bombing. The solution adopted consists of restoring rubble masonry that follows the negative outline of the missing gemstones, thus evoking the shape of the old windows that have disappeared. The rear arches will be treated using a curved shell that will frame views of the landscape. With regard to the restoration of missing masonry, south and west curtain wall, the aim is to restore, among other things, a solid volume and the strong shape of the archetypal medieval castle, the monolithic character of the monument. When the gap is too large, restore a masonry configuration that is more conducive to load bearing. The reconstruction of these adobe masonry structures aims to make the original layout, the organization of the interior spaces of the castle more legible, and to re-establish physical links between the different parts of the building. With regard to protecting the masonry from the elements, for the latrine tower, this involves, among other things, protecting it from rainwater. Once this process has been completed, the conditions for the building's long-term preservation will be ensured. Let us now move on to Phase 3. Proposals for enhancement and scenic development. This includes 1. Contemporary evocation of the north entrance gatehouse. To restore a sense of monumentality to the main entrance, especially since it is the first space visitors encounter and the first impression they have of the site. But also to restore the defensive filters that keep visitors at a distance, allowing them to experience crossing the site based on the visibility of the archaeological remains, dry moat, quasi-dry stone wall against escarpments, etc. This will make it possible to understand the different stages of construction and the changes to the castle's moated defensive system in the mid-15th century, transformation into a true aristocratic residence, and in the 17th century. Point 2 of Phase 3 is the reinterpretation of the entrance to the main building. Point 3 of Phase 3 corresponds to the creation of a spiral staircase and airy circulation corridors. This will provide a fun and airy route with a 360 degrees view of the distant landscape and a contemporary reinterpretation of the parapet walk on the levels of the projecting machicolations, reading the monument in its territory, reconnecting with its original vocation. These structures will also enable the maintenance, upkeep, and removal of vegetation from a large part of the castle's masonry without the need for heavy construction equipment. Point 4 of Phase 3 is restoration of the defensive terrace and its relationship to the bochie, in order to return to the 15th century circulation level, but also to highlight the rocky base and create a scenic space for theatrical performances sheltered from the wind. These new developments will enable the Association to close off access to the keep and leave the lower courtyard open to families free of charge. Point 5 of Phase 3 corresponds to the reclassification of the landscaped surroundings and lighting of the monument, with the replanting of the old vineyards. The site will be partially replanted at the end of the work to restore its wild and romantic appearance: ferns, blueberries, and small shrubs. It is important that the site retains its natural appearance. Point 6 of Phase 3 involves the creation of a footpath from the village through the rock. Point 7 envisages the development of a new visiting route and programming, with the addition of a ticket office, cloakrooms, toilets, exhibition spaces, theater and performance areas, seating, walkways, and viewing points. The last point, point 8, provides for the installation of signage and furniture to identify the site. Be sure to visit Domeyrat Castle in 10 years' time to see this project finally completed. However, don't wait to plan your visit. Feel free to check out the website chateaudomeyrat.fr, chateaudomeyrat.fr, or the Facebook page. This summer, Jean de Langeac will welcome you to discover the history of the castle at 2:30 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. Thank you to the Association and more specifically to Christian Poulet-Verger, as well as to the Haut-Allier region of art and history, and in particular to Marilyn Avon. Without them, this account of an ambitious and exciting restoration project would not have been possible. Dear listeners, thank you for listening. Join us next week for a new summer episode of Comme d'Archi, on a new topic. Until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.
Chers auditeurs, merci pour votre écoute. N'oubliez pas de retrouver nos sujets en avant-première sur Instagram à l'adresse @commedarchipodcast. Si vous aimez ce podcast, favorisez sa diffusion en lui donnant 5 étoiles sur Apple Podcast, plus un petit commentaire, ou sur votre plateforme de podcast favorite. Et surtout, abonnez-vous pour écouter tous nos épisodes gratuitement. À bientôt, et d'ici là, prenez soin de vous.